There we go.
That's my cue.
There you go. Yeah.
Thanks. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this partnership between High Point Village and Consolidated Planning Group. I'll let Michelle explain CPG services, but they truly are, in my view, the experts on financial planning for special needs families. They have given me a lot of information and resources. So I am Natalie Hendricks. I am the Social Services Director out here at High Point Village, and I think we've got people joining us from outside of Lubbock, maybe. So for those of you who are not familiar with who we are, High Point Village is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we serve individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. We do that in many different ways. Kind of our big flagship program is our daily enrichment program, and that's for adults ages 18 plus. And that's a Monday through Thursday program, 8:30 to 4 o'clock throughout the year. And we also have afternoon enrichment, and that is for ages 8 and over. So special needs school age kiddos can come out here, see what we're all about, and take really fun classes like Zumba and cooking and crafting, and we've had robotics and all kinds of stuff. We also have summer camps in the summer, and that's for summer for ages 8 and over and summer for 12 and over. Then we've got therapies, that's for all ages, and that's music therapy and speech therapy. We do not have an OT, occupational therapist on staff, but we partner with the students at Texas Tech University, I think every semester, or at least every year. We've got 3 out here right now. So that's really fun to partner with them.
That's fantastic.
I know, it's really great. So, and we've got a vision for, it's always been High Point's vision to have residential on site. We've got 62 acres out here. So that is a slow and expensive process, but we are in that process. So it is coming for those of you in need of that. And then we've got social services, which of course is where I come in. And one of my main roles out here, I've got a few, but one is resource connection and education. And so that's kind of how we got here today. Throughout my education, trying to educate myself on all of these very complex and overwhelming services for special needs families and their children and loved ones. I came across lots of different trainings, and I came across, thankfully, webinars from CPG. And I have to say they were the most clear and helpful, and there's a lot of them. So I was so thankful to come across them. So so thankful that they reached out to me and said that we could do this partnership. I was going to do my own seminar out here, which felt a little overwhelming, but now we can reach even more people outside of Lubbock. So I'm so thankful for that. Before I hand it over to Michelle, I just want to make sure people know that as far as our partnership, we have 3 more webinars coming up. We've got on March 10th, Government Benefits 101. April 14th, Guardianship and Alternatives, and then May 19th will be Special Needs Planning, the Special Needs Trust. So I know CPG sends those links to me to be able to share about 2 weeks before each webinar. So for our High Point families, I will again send an email like I did for this first one so that you can register with the link. And then for anyone else out there, I will put it on our Facebook page. So little plug, you can follow us on High Point Village Facebook.
Yeah, and we also send them out. We also send them to anyone who attends a webinar.
That's
you gave us your email and phone number, so we do use those to send out upcoming webinars as well.
Yes, and y'all have a lot of them. So even if these topics aren't what you need, like y'all do school transition, and y'all do like all kinds of stuff. So if you're looking for mine, you can just scroll down and find mine, but there's all kinds of handy stuff. And then finally, I'll just plug our website a little bit. We are at www.highpointvillage.org, and you can learn about all of the programs I've talked about. But if you go to the social services tab, which is new, you can click on that, and the drop-down menu takes you to handouts that I've created that have a lot of this information that you can then go to the website and look at. You can print. I've got links on there to other handy information. I've got CPG on there, a link to their information. So you can go there because sometimes it takes multiple times hearing this and reading this. And so that way you can get some additional information. So I don't want to take any more time. Michelle?
Thank you so much, Natalie, for having us, and at High Point for all that you guys do over there. We do have a couple questions in the chat box for you. So if you want to hop in there and answer those, just again, you're located in Denton, is that right?
We are in Lubbock, actually, out in West Texas, just at the lower part of the Panhandle. So we're way out here kind of on our own, which is why I'm so thankful that we're out here, because we serve a large swath of land. We've got people that come in from all the surrounding towns. So
Fantastic. Yeah, so there are some questions in the chat box for you. If you want to just answer those in chat while I get started on this part, we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm Michelle Morris from Consolidated Planning Group. If you have been to some of our webinars in the past, you know the drill, but I'll go through kind of what the rules of the game are today. We are recording this webinar and we will send it out after, later on today. You're going to get a copy of the webinar or a link to our YouTube channel where we keep our webinars, and you're going to get a copy of the slides. So anything that is clickable in my presentation, you'll be able to click it once you get the slides and all of that kind of stuff. We cannot hear you or see you, but I know you're out there. So go ahead and put any questions or comments that you have in the chat box. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that, and I'll get to as many questions and comments as I can. If it seems like I'm ignoring you, I promise I'm not. It's just that I know like I'm about to get to that information. If you're listening to us on our podcast, you can reach out to us at contact@cpgcares.com. Just email us and we will send you a copy of the slides if you would like them. Again, that's contact@cpgcares.net. Actually, I'm sorry if I said .com earlier, cpgcares.net. Our website is consolidatedplanninggroup.com. All right, so without any further ado, let's get going. We're going to talk today about Medicaid waivers, SSI eligibility, and preserving benefits. Some of the other things that families come to us about are, protection plans for their families, lifetime care plans, transition planning, ABLE accounts, and advocacy. First of all, we are a financial planning firm. We can do anything that any other financial advisor does in terms of helping you plan for your financial future, for your retirement, making sure that you have life insurance in place, that you're planning for your future. Now, the thing that we do that makes us very different is that we also take it a step further by doing special needs planning and focusing on families who have a special needs loved one. The owner of our company, Allison Scaberg, has two girls with some special needs. And when they were getting to, those teenage years, she saw how difficult it was to learn the ins and outs and to know what to do. And so that's why our company focuses on educating families as much as we possibly can, even if you're not yet a client of ours. We provide these free webinars 3, 4, 5 times a week to get the word out and to make it easier on families to make sure that they're getting everything taken care of. We are located in the Houston area. We serve all of Texas and even families in other states across the United States. So we are here to help. All of our contact info is in the chat box, and we're going to present that again on a slide later on. So without, going too far and too deep into each of these different waivers, these are the different waiver programs. There are 8 of them available in the state of Texas. So what happens is these waivers are designed to waive off some of the costs of services. Of course, it can be very, very expensive to take care of your loved one. We know that. And these waivers are, they're out there, they're meant to help. There can be long waiting lists and it can be frustrating, but we're going to talk today about how to get on the list to wait, what you can use the waivers for, other things that you can be doing to help your loved one, and things like that. So these are the 8 programs that are available in Texas. Community Living Assistance and Support Services is CLASS. DBMD is deaf, blind with multiple disabilities. HCS is Home and Community-Based Services. Texas Home Living is TXHML. There's the Medically Dependent Children's Program, MDCP. Star Plus waiver, which is also called the 1115 demonstration waiver. There's YES, Youth Empowerment Services, and Community First Choice is CFC. So, okay. CLASS, let's talk about CLASS a little bit. So CLASS is a waiver program that is provided to children and adults who have a condition. They refer to it as a related condition. And they have over 200 different related conditions that count for CLASS. So because there are so many conditions like cerebral palsy, spina bifida, autism, all kinds of things, the condition must have started before the child was 22 years old. So you can see that this waiver program serves a lot of people. It's very broad in its scope. Adults and children, anyone who has a related condition, IDD, things like that, an intellectual or a developmental disability. So the waiting list for CLASS can be very long, like 15 to 17 years. We are hoping that everyone's getting the word out as soon as you have a child who is born with one of these conditions, but that's not always the case. Or maybe you've just recently moved to Texas and you don't know about the waiver programs yet. So we're going to talk about how to get on them and how to make sure you're on the list. And about, what to do if you move. There's the deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities waiver. Now, this one is a very narrow scope. You have to have deafness and blindness, or conditions that are going to cause you to be deaf or blind. And you have to have a third disability. So you have to deaf and blind and another disability. So you can see that because that there aren't very many people who have all 3 of those conditions, this waiting list is not very long. HCS is Home and Community-Based Services. This is intended to give services to people in their homes or communities. It can be in your own home or in a group home, as long as it's not more than 4 people. MDCP, again, this is one of the ones that serves a narrower group of people. So the waiting list is only about a year for MDCP. This is for people under 20 years old who are, 20 and younger. I'm sorry, not under 20, but 20 and younger. You have to be medically fragile for this one. So this is to provide services at home rather than having to go to a nursing facility. But you do have to be medically fragile. Now, what happens if you turn 21 and you're on MDCP, you are medically fragile? You will move over to the next waiver, which is Star Plus. Star Plus is for medically fragile individuals who are 21 and up. Again, the point is to keep you in your own home rather than going to a nursing home or a state-run type of facility. You get services through an MCO, a managed care organization, which means that you kind of get to do the hiring and figure out who you want to take care of your loved one. Again, as I said, that waiting list is not very long. Texas Home Living, again, another broad program. Any children or adults with an intellectual disability can get Texas home living. You have to live in your own home or in a family home. Even, if you're at a residential community like Brookwood or something like that, you can't get this program. For some reason, some of them feel like that is still kind of similar to an institution, I think. And they really, the waivers are really meant to keep you in your own home or in a very small group home. Youth empowerment services. This one is for mental, behavioral, and emotional difficulties. The YES waiver is for children under the age of 19. There isn't a big waiting list for this. In some counties, there's no wait at all for the YES waiver. Now, with this one, your primary diagnosis has to be a mental condition. It's not that you have autism as your primary diagnosis and you also have a mental disability. This is for primarily for mental, behavioral, and emotional difficulties. And then there's community first choice. We've done entire webinars just about community first choice. So if you're curious about that, all of our webinars live on our YouTube channel, and I'll share that link in a minute. So community first choice allows states to provide care in home or in a small group home. They provide Medicaid, all of the waiver programs come with Medicaid, but they provide attendant services, and the attendant can come and help with the activities of daily living, help you learn how to take care of yourself a little better, whether that help is through teaching you or doing it for you. It's health-related tasks. They can provide hands-on assistance, and they're offered through an MCO, like I said, another managed care organization. It's an entitlement versus being a waiver, so that's a little bit different, meaning that there's very short wait for the community first choice services. So you can check into that as well. So I do see some questions. I'm going to try and grab some of these while I am looking at them. Okay. We are on the waiting list for MDCP. We were on the waiting list for MDCP for about 6 years. Oh my gosh. I thought it was much shorter than that, but okay. I guess the MDCP waiting list is longer than I thought, about 6 years. Class and Medicaid lists for about 12 years. Yeah, so class and Medicaid, class and HCS, those are about 15 to 17 last we heard. CFC, Community First Choice, is different from Medicaid's personal care services. How is it different? It provides some of the same stuff. If you can get both, obviously, that would be extremely helpful in paying for additional services. I would suggest that you check out the webinar that we did with Community First Choice for clarification on that, or reach out to either one of those programs to get clarification on exactly which covers which things, which services, and how they're different. And that webinar that we did with Community First Choice, it was just a couple weeks ago, so it should be easy for you to find it. So why do you want the waiver programs? Why do you want that? They can provide all of these things, adaptive aids. They can help pay for financial management services, supported employment and employment assistance. They can help with minor home modifications, dental, nursing, prescriptions, respite hours, nursing hours, professional therapies, and that can be occupational, physical therapy, speech therapy, music therapy, horse therapy, any kinds of therapies that you can imagine, massage, art, all of that. So these are, some of the services can be quite valuable. CFC, they don't have a long wait list. I'm not sure how long it takes. I think once you start with their application process, I think she said about 6 months to get your services, which, once you apply, it takes time with all of these waiver programs to get your services. But there's not a long waiting list for CFC.
Michelle, can I jump in really quick? Just for my understanding is when it says it's an entitlement service, is that it often is financially based. So there are financial limitations, is my understanding, the ones that are entitlement based. So that's why the waiting lists sometimes are shorter, is because a lot fewer people are actually eligible, whereas the waivers, they call them a waiver because they waive those financial limitations for people, except for the asset limit. So most people would be eligible for the waivers on the first page. And then if it's an entitlement, like Texas Home Living and the CFC, I believe it's because the financial limitations are in place.
Thank you so much for that clarification, Natalie.
It's tricky.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is tricky. It is tricky. And I want you to know, we are considered experts because we know more about these things than a lot of other people, but we don't know everything. And I know that there are way more people who are smarter than me on some of these things. So if you know different, please feel free to let me know. It doesn't hurt my feelings to learn that, for example, what the difference is between an entitlement or a waiver, or like the comment that we have here that the MDCP waitlist is actually about 6 years long. I appreciate learning, so don't feel bad about that. Whoops. Okay. So they can also provide transportation. They can help pay for housing, day hab programs, and nursing, like I said before. Okay, Adrian is explaining a little bit about CFC in the chat box. So if you're interested in that, please read that explanation because it's a good one. And there's a lot to learn. A lot of the little acronyms we use in the business are all listed there. So thank you very much for sharing that, Adrian. Okay. I keep meaning to scroll in the chat box and I'm switching my slides. There we go. So for eligibility for the waiver programs, most waivers are for all ages. And we have already talked about the different age limits, like MDCP is under 21, Star Plus is over 21, and the YES program is for 19 and under. They do have some financial eligibility requirements to them, as Natalie was just telling us. For all of them except Texas Home Living, because Natalie, as you said, it's an entitlement. You can't have an income that is more than 300% of SSI. So for this year, that number is 2742, but that is the individual with the need, not the child. I mean, not the parents. It doesn't look at the parents' income. So if your child has a disability and they're working and they're making over $2,742 a month, then the waiver programs are like, you know what? They don't really need our help as much as all these other people do. And you have to meet the functional eligibility criteria. For example, if you are trying to get the DBMD, deaf, blind, and medically dependent waiver, you have to be deaf, blind, or medically dependent for MDCP and all of that. So you have to fit whatever waiver criteria you're applying for. One thing that you need to know, though, is that when you sign up for the waiting list for these waivers, you don't have to prove that you're eligible. No, I mean, they might talk to you about it a little bit, but they can't say, oh, you can't sign up for this waiver list. And if they do try to say that, then you should talk to their supervisor, get their name and talk to their supervisor, because that person might not have a clear understanding about what the rules and regulations are. So generally, you can sign up for any list. And then when your name comes up is when you have to prove that your child is eligible to get these waivers. So how do you do it? How do you get on the wait list for these programs? Well, first of all, for the three that are listed there in orange, MDCP, which is medically dependent, class, which is pretty much for everybody, and DBMD, which is deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities. You need to call this 877 number. It's 877-438-5658. So actually, everybody who's listening to this should call that number, because even if you don't qualify for MDCP or DBMD, you probably will qualify for class. So call that number and get on their wait list. For Home and Community Services, Texas Home Living, and CFC, you need to talk with your local Intellectual and Developmental Disability Authority. We've heard it referred to as LIDA, LIDA, whatever you want to call it, your local authority. To find out who they are, you can go to this link, or you can just Google LIDA lookup. That's what I do when I'm in a hurry. And it will pull up the list, and you just look at which county is served by which local authority. So you'll call your local authority and ask to be put on the waiver program waiting lists. So everybody should be calling that number as well. So everybody should be calling at least 2 phone numbers to make sure that you are on all of the waiting lists. Now there's a third phone number if you're interested in Star Plus. Remember, that one is for 21 years and up and medically dependent. So that phone number is hold on, my controls are blocking the number, 877-782-6440. Now, if you are in the state of Texas, these programs are statewide. If you move within Texas, you do need to call your local authority and let them know that you've moved, and they can transfer you from one to the other without you losing your place in line. Now, if you move out of Texas completely, you're out of Texas. You have to sign up on the waiting lists in your new state. Some states are very similar to Texas and have long wait times. Other states do not have as long of a wait for their programs as we do here in Texas. So if you move counties, you do need to let them know. It doesn't matter what county you're in. It's just that they have to be able to find you, really. And they will keep your place in line. Okay, do you have to wait until you're 21 to get on the list for Star Plus? I don't think that you have to wait until you're 21, but keep in mind that the list is short. So if your name comes up and your child is not yet 21, you'll just have to continue to wait. Call your local authority to get on these lists. If you are in HCS and transitioning to SSDI, does that mean you're okay as long as your SSDI based on parental Social Security is under 2742? Yes, you should be fine as long as it's under that number. Okay, so in addition to getting on these lists and waiting a long time, there are 2 other ways that you might be able to get waivers. The first one is through a crisis diversion spot. And we really hope that nobody ever needs this. But if you or your loved one is in crisis, you can contact your local authority and tell them that you want a crisis diversion waiver. It's through HCS. What we're talking about when we say that you're in crisis is maybe your child has become a threat to themselves or others. Maybe things have deteriorated, things have changed, and all of a sudden the behavior is far too much. They're thinking about running away, hurting themselves. They've attempted to run away, and they're at risk of being placed into a facility because of that. Maybe your crisis is that either you or your spouse or the other caregiver of your child has become disabled, and now you can't take care of them, or it's far too difficult for you to take care of them, either physically or financially. Things like that. Those are crisis situations. So your local authority will help you through this process, but you do have to stay involved. And I know it's hard because if by definition, you've got a lot going on if you're requesting a crisis diversion spot. But be the squeaky wheel. Let them know that you really need this help now. And they can move you kind of to the top of the list to get those services quicker. Another way that you can get a waiver spot that is not, you've waited for 15 years for your spot is through PASRR. That's pre-admission screening and resident review. So this is to help divert people and transition people out of nursing home facilities or specialized services. So it's a federally mandated program that requires the state to pre-screen people. It doesn't matter how they're paying, what their income is, what their age is, but if you're seeking admission to a Medicaid certified facility, they have to screen you to see if you have a mental illness or a disability. And if you're in the proper place to get the best treatment, and if those services can be provided to you in the community rather than in a nursing facility. And if you're already in a nursing facility, they have to keep an eye out. They're required to keep an eye out to see, if you have a disability and if you would be better served or could be served in the community rather than in a facility. Okay, my adult brother is currently on the waiver, the HCS waiver. I received notice that his Social Security benefits would be increasing due to the recent death of our mother, and that he would lose his SSI eligibility due to that increase. So what is happening is that your brother was on SSI. Now he's going to be switched over to SSDI to draw from his mother's record. And that should be more than SSI. So you can't get both if one is more than the other. So I think that's what is happening there. This could affect his Medicaid eligibility, but it should not, because there's a thing called a pickle amendment. And basically what the pickle amendment is, it's named after a congressman whose last name was Pickle. But that basically says that if you have been eligible for Medicaid in the past, you keep your Medicaid eligibility, basically. Another thing for you to know is that once you switch over to SSDI and you're on SSDI for 2 years, you become Medicare eligible and you'll have dual eligibility. Okay. How can we preserve his waiver eligibility? So it should still be perfectly fine. You should still be able to get the waiver. You might want to call them just to double check, but I think you're going to be fine.
And Michelle, I'll say, I think the waiver does also protect the Medicaid, because when you do have a waiver like HCS, you automatically get Medicaid. So even if his payment per month bumps up, as long as it's under that 300% and the assets don't go above 2,000, he should continue to get Medicaid. Again, the world of shoulds, you should double check.
Exactly.
But it should be protected.
Perfect. Yes. And, a lot of this is, we tell you what they should do and what the rules are, but, we can't guarantee that it's always going to happen exactly the way it should. Sometimes you call your local Social Security office to get information about SSI, and you might get somebody who's been there for 20 years and who knows what they're doing and knows everything about disabilities and all the programs and is a rock star. And other times you might get somebody who is a little bit newer and maybe doesn't know all of this stuff, and they're more in the role as an order taker, and you need to know what you need, because you have to tell them what you should be getting. So, that's why we're trying to educate you. So how do you get started with special needs planning? This is, going into a little bit more about what we do at Consolidated Planning Group. We are special needs planners, and it's, there's over 250,000 financial advisors throughout the United States, right? 250,000. Now, out of those 250,000 financial advisors, only about 150, not 1,000, just 150 financial advisors are really nuanced in special needs planning. And it's important that you have someone who is a specialist in this, because other financial advisors don't know all the rules and nuances and how to have your money in the right buckets so that you don't jeopardize your child's benefits. That's why it's so important to work with someone who really knows what they're doing. And it's even important with attorneys, for certain aspects of your life, you are going to need an attorney to set up your will, to set up a trust. If you need guardianship, you're going to need an attorney to help you set that up. And you need not just any attorney, because again, you need one who knows what they're doing with special needs planning. If you don't, maybe you have a neighbor who is a real estate attorney and they're like, oh, I can draw that up for you for cheap. You're going to spend more money fixing that than you would have spent in the first place just having it done right from the beginning. So look for people who specialize in this. It's important. You want to gather together all of your planning documents and have a feel for what you have in place already. What does your life insurance say? How much do you have? What does your retirement plan say? How long is your child going to be covered under your health insurance or your company's group plan? Get those things in your head so that you know what you're dealing with and you know what you need. We would love for you to develop a letter of intent. This is something that we talk about a lot. We have a full webinar about the letter of intent, but in short, too long didn't read version. The short version is the letter of intent is where you write down everything that somebody would need to know if you were gone tomorrow and someone else had to step in and take your place in terms of taking care of your child. So start with the facts. I used to be an English teacher. So when it comes to writing a paper, this is what I would suggest. Start with the facts. Where was your child born? What are their diagnoses? Who are their doctors? What are the names and addresses for their doctors? What medications are they on? And then you'll kind of naturally roll into the other aspects of your child's life that somebody would need to know, like what do they really love? What are they passionate about? What will set them off into a frenzy? What will make them completely melt down? What do they need to be able to go to sleep at night? What will they refuse to eat? What preferences do you have for them in terms of religion and spiritual issues? What, you know more about your child than anyone else ever will. As a matter of fact, you have probably already forgotten more than anyone else will ever know. So the letter of intent is designed for you to write down as much of that information about your child as possible. Keep it someplace where people can get to it. I suggest that you write it electronically so that you can update it frequently as your child grows and evolves. You can add things or take things away or change it up as you need it. Print out a version, keep it somewhere safe, but somewhere where people can find it. And then maybe 6 months later, you go back, you read it, you say, oh, this needs to change, that needs to change. Print out the new version, throw away the old one, keep it somewhere where people can find it. And think about, what do you want things to look like for your child in their future? Do you want them to stay in your home for as long as possible so that you can take care of them? Do you want them to go to a community where they can maybe live and work with their peers? Do you want them to be in their own apartment and have a job? You know, we don't know what the future holds. You can put your hopes and thoughts in there. But this, just gives you a way to think about it. I see a question here. Does working with CPG require in-person meetings, or can it all be done remotely? All of our meetings are through Zoom. And the reason we do that, first of all, so that we can serve more of you. We're located in Houston. We know not all of you are. But another reason is because so many, like 98% of the families that we work with have special needs loved ones, and they need to be at home to take care of their special needs loved ones. If we required everybody to come to us, it might mean that you have to get a babysitter, or you might have to work around your child having care. Since we do it through Zoom, you don't have to worry about that. And we also don't have to worry about spreading germs to your loved ones, especially if they have some sort of a disability that makes them more susceptible to things like COVID. So everything that we do is through Zoom. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the thing that's keeping you up at night. How on earth are you going to pay for your child's care? How are you going to pay for them to be taken care of once you're gone? That can be, they can live beyond 20, 30 years after you're gone. Your child is still going to be here on this earth, and they need someone to take care of them. So how does that work? Well, yes, all of our paperwork is electronic too. First of all, make sure that you don't make them ineligible for their benefits, please. The state and federally funded programs like SSI and Social Security and the waivers are very valuable, and having that money to help take care of them will be a large part of how you're going to fund their future. So making sure that you don't do anything to jeopardize those benefits. That's the first thing we prioritize. You need a special needs trust. And the reason you need a special needs trust, we know, you're probably not sitting on millions and millions and millions of dollars, but still, even if it's $500,000 or $100,000, if your child has that money in their name, they're not going to be eligible for benefits. You need to have a trust, and you need to leave assets to that trust for the benefit of your child, not straight to your child. So if your child is listed as a beneficiary on your life insurance or your investment accounts or anything like that, it needs to be changed. Most people do that. Okay, my life insurance is going to go to my husband, and if he is gone, then it will be split equally between all of our kids. That's how most people do it, but that's wrong when you have a special needs child. So you can put money into that trust for their care. All of your current life insurance and assets will go to that trust. Another place that you can have money for your child is in an ABLE account. So everybody has pretty much heard of a 529 college savings plan by now. Hey, I'm sorry if you can hear background noise. My dogs just came running in. Anyway, everyone's heard about a 529 college savings account pretty much, and that's where you can put money in for your child, and it won't be taxed, and it can grow in that fund for you to pay for college, right? Well, a 529, that's a 529C for college savings. 529A is the same kind of thing. It's still a 529, but this is called the ABLE account. And it is meant for anybody with a disability, as long as that disability began before age 26. There are limits to how much you can put in there. It's $17,000 for this year, and you can put in an additional 13,590 if they have a job. But this money can be used pretty much for anything that can be construed as achieving a better life experience. That's what ABLE stands for, achieving a better life experience for someone with a disability. So it doesn't have to be used just for college. You can save money there and it can grow tax-free. And when you use it, there's no taxes or fees or things like that. It's just that it's meant to be set aside. Oh, perfect. Jennifer is letting us know my son just finished saving for a computer in his ABLE account and ordered his computer. Oh, that is fantastic. We love that. So yeah, ABLE accounts can be used for computers, education, a car, clothing, rent, food, a vacation, anything that they need that will make their life better. So that's fantastic. Thank you. And again, we do webinars all the time on all of these different topics. I did one yesterday or a couple days ago about the ABLE accounts specifically. The max, what's the max? So for an ABLE account, this year you can put in 17,000. You don't ever want your ABLE account to go over 100,000 total. Thank you for bringing that up because I forgot to say it, and that's important. If your ABLE account goes over 100,000, then Medicaid can say, hey, you guys are good. You've got enough money. You don't need our help anymore. So yes, the difference between a trust and an ABLE account, and we want people to have both, and here's why. The ABLE account can pay for pretty much anything, but there are limits on how much you can put into it. With your trust, you shouldn't use your trust to pay for everyday living things like rent, food, utilities, cash, or else you'll get a reduction in your SSI benefits. So apart from those kinds of things, you can use your trust for anything else, car, clothing, vacations, whatever, just not housing, food and shelter, basically, or else they'll lower your SSI benefit. But in your trust, you can have as much money as you want. So there are pros and cons to each of those places where you can keep money. Another thing to be aware of is that once your special needs loved one passes away, Medicaid can come and take back some of the money that is in their ABLE account or in a first party special needs trust. It's to reimburse Medicaid for things that they've paid out over the years to provide support for your child. Now, a third party special needs trust, and we're getting kind of in the weeds here, but a third party trust, Medicaid cannot claim a reimbursement from. I was able to purchase a home to lease to my son's HCS provider. It is in a business LLC. At some point, I need it to be protected for him. If you leave the home to his trust, it could be a problem for his benefits, you've been told. Unfortunately, this is a question for an attorney. Like I said, an attorney will need to do your trust, and this you'll want to make sure that it's set up properly to protect your child. Okay, so this is a list of topics that we cover all the time, things that we work with on a daily basis, and families come to us for help and support on these topics all the time. You can check our YouTube channel for webinars on these topics, or you can reach out to us for help. Special needs care planning, the future care cost estimate. What we're talking about there is, if your child needs care for the rest of their life, they might need to go to a residential community or a group home, or even just have an attendant check in on them. How much is that going to cost? How much should you be thinking about? to save for your money for that. We help people with the Texas waiver programs, which we've talked about extensively today, SSI and SSDI, ABLE accounts, beneficiary designations, special needs trusts. Now, when I say we help people with special needs trusts, and I see your question, we are not attorneys. We help you understand them, and we can help you advise about a special needs trust, but we cannot actually set one up for you because we're not attorneys, and you have to have an attorney do that for you. We can help you find money to fund that special needs trust. So we're the money side of it, and an attorney is the paperwork side of it, making sure that you have the paperwork set up correctly. And then we help you make sure to fund it correctly. Another thing to know about special needs trusts, and this comes up, child support. If child support is something in your life, and you have a disabled child, you can get your child support extended beyond age 18 because of a disability. So if that is something that you're dealing with, you need to make sure that that child support is not sent straight to your child after they're 18 anymore, because then guess what? That's income. So you need to have that redirected to a first party special needs trust. And I know it's confusing hearing this needs to go to a first party trust and this needs to go to a third party trust. And there's differences in those things. I know it's confusing. We can help you understand that, but still we cannot set them up for you. Okay. If you think that your child might need a residential community, you should start touring those early. There are a lot of great facilities, great places like High Point in the future. I heard that they might have residential setups coming in the future. Check into those in advance because, some cater to different needs. Some can serve needs that others cannot. Some allow for you to pay only out of pocket, and some allow for you to use waiver programs to pay. And they have different costs, different fees associated with them. And they can have a waiting list. So you might find the perfect place. And I would hate for that to happen to you, that you finally find the perfect place for your family. And then you find out that there's a waiting list. So look into these things in advance and find out if there's waiting lists. And we do residential panel discussions and residential webinars. So look for those as well. Guardianship. If you're considering guardianship, you need to know that the state requires that you go with the least restrictive option when it comes to guardianship. So that might be supported decision-making, or just having a healthcare power of attorney or a power of attorney, and alternatives to guardianship. You can start the guardianship process when you're within 6 months of your child turning 18. Again, guardianship requires an attorney. There's a lot of great options beyond high school out there. So, once your child graduates from high school, sometimes they're maybe in an 18+ program, but there's a lot of great options beyond high school as well. This is our team. I like to put faces with names. So this is our team. You might have some of the girls reach out to you because of this webinar. We're going to call you. Please don't hang up on us. Please don't be rude. These girls are very sweet and they won't bite. We're just calling to see if you have any additional questions after this webinar, or if you would like to schedule your free consultation. So what do we do in our free consultation? We want to learn about you and your family. We want you to tell us what questions you have and how we can help you. That's the first thing. How can we help you and what questions do you have? After that, we will go into more about how we work. Of course, we work over Zoom. We send everything electronically. We do everything electronically. But this is where we'll tell you about the packages that we offer and what our charges are, and how we work. And then we decide, you decide and we decide sometimes if we would be a good fit to work together. So you can use this QR code to schedule your own appointment, or you can call us at 281-690-1177, or you can email contact@cpgcares.net. When you receive these slides, all of these links will be clickable: our Facebook, our Instagram, our YouTube channel, and our podcast. In case you would like to listen instead of watching these webinars, you can go there. And like I said, we will be reaching out. Please don't just hang up on us. Humor us, and at least tell us yes or no if you would like to schedule a consultation, or if you have any other questions. So I have a few more minutes before it's 1 o'clock. If you have any other questions, now is the time to get them into the chat box. Otherwise, we'll be in touch soon, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again, Natalie, for being here and for helping me with some clarifications on those topics. And everybody who has attended, thank you so much for being with us. We're here for you. We're here to help if you have more questions, okay?
Absolutely. And some of you had some questions that were a little more specific, and she brought up special needs trust. So remember, we've got those other webinars coming up. So we'll dive the government benefits 101. I think that one's next. Is that the next one? Yeah. So March 10th, that will dive deep into SSI, SSDI, what all that means, how you're eligible. And again, on our website, I've got under the social services tab handouts on all of that. So it's very dense information. So again, I think having both is really great. So, and the special needs trust webinar is coming up. So we'll be able to go dive deep into that too.
Yeah. And what we've found is, people attend our webinars over and over and over. And we love that because it's so much information. And maybe today you picked up 2 or 3 little nuggets that you're going to be able to use to take with you. And maybe next time you'll listen to the same webinar and you'll get a new piece of information that you didn't pick up the first time. So it's really beneficial to, and you're more than welcome to attend as many of our webinars as you'd like, as many times as you like, because it really is a lot of information. And on our website, which is just consolidatedplanninggroup.com, under our events tab, we do list out all of our webinars. We also put them on our Facebook page, so you can find them there as well. So
and I'm linking them on our website, which I think is okay. I asked Meredith, so
yay!
So they'll be there as well for those.
I do see a question from Jade about how much it costs. Just call the office and set up your appointment. Different things have different pricing. I can't really go into all of that here. So feel free to set up your own consultation. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Happy Friday. We made it through the week. You're going to hear from us soon, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. Natalie, thanks for having us.
Of course. Thanks for being here. Everyone have a great weekend.
Bye-bye. Thank you.